Hi guys, welcome to another video. Thank you for being on my Men for Men Real Talk channel. And I'm so excited. I have a wonderful interview by Christian de la Huerta, TED Talk speaker, guys. You have got to stay and watch this. If you have been stuck in your relationships, if you feel like you're less than, if you have sexual anxiety, wondering why we have sexual issues as a species, perhaps, not even as just because we're LGBT community. Oh my God, this guy has so much to say, so insightful. The interview is slam dunk fantastic. I want you to experience it. Hang on with me. Stay tuned. Watch the video. Leave, like, and share and comment below. And we're coming right back with Christian de la Huerta. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, actually just gentlemen, because this is for my channel, right guys? So welcome you guys that have come back to watch another video. And it's a wonderful month because it's Pride Month. And I'm happy to have a wonderful guest here. Today is Christian de la Huerta. So it's just great conversation, like I promised, to encourage gay and bisexual men, to bring more value to you guys so that you know, just like I know, that we are worth it. And we are not junk, and we are more than a lot of people want to make us think we are. So anyway, I have him waiting on the sidelines over here. I'm so excited to have him share his knowledge with us. And how did I find him? I found him on a TED Talks. How do you like that one? So this man's amazing. He does retreats for gay and lesbian people and just retreats in general, but they're all about wellness and healing and bringing people together and embracing spirituality. And I'll let him do the rest of the talking because I certainly don't want to do it. So Christian, welcome to my channel, and thank you so much for agreeing to do the interview. Why don't you just say hello and tell these people who you are.
Hey, Michael. So glad to be on your channel. And happy Pride. And not only are we not, like you were saying, not only is there something not wrong with us, but we're actually blessed, I would think. And I think it's a privilege to be gay, to be bi, to be LGBT. And that's part of what I did in my book, that's 20th anniversary of this month, Coming Out Spiritually, which basically says that it's really sad that a lot of people in our community struggle with spirituality, understandably, because we confuse it with religion. And given the way that we've been treated by many religions throughout history and even still today. But what's sad about that, what's tragic about it, is that before the patriarchal times, the patriarchal cultures and religions, people that we today call LGBT or queer, whatever we call ourselves, were not only spiritually inclined, but were actually honored and revered in many cases for the roles of spiritual service and spiritual leadership that we played all over the world. So that's kind of what I put together in the book, and I see the book as a call to action to reclaim that heritage, to reclaim these roles that we have played throughout history, and to find ways of expressing them that are a match for who we are today.
Thank you. And I think, when I was watching your TED Talk, I was really blown away so fast. You know how they say it's like, well, they talk about attention span, right? But the idea that you have to get them in the first few seconds, right? And if you don't, they're kind of gone. So that's the way that your TED Talk came to me. Because I don't know how I came across it, actually. I know I have you on Facebook, and then I know that I looked you up. So it must have been, maybe I went onto your page and I said, let me see, And then, 'cause I know you and I had chatted once or twice before on Messenger, right?
Yeah.
So I checked it out, and you were standing there, and I was just, your talk was on breath work, which that in and of itself I thought was fascinating. So I said, wow, I have to check this out on TED Talk. I'm like, okay, great. Let's see what he has to say. And the sincerity and there's just the emotional balance that I got with you standing there talking about this I was just immediately moved to action, really. And then what I think I saw was that you said something about calling all heroes, right? LGBT heroes, something like that. And I was like, you know what, dude, you are an LGBT hero. I said that to myself. I said, because that's who I speak to, right? Gay and bisexual men. That's who I fight for my whole life. And I said, this guy and me, there's so much congruency and synchronicity here in this conversation. Before we had a conversation, I said, I just have to have this guy on.
Yeah, I love that. I love when magic happens, and then to discover that we're both in Florida, like 3.5 hours away.
Isn't that great? You're going to have to go away, you know what I'm saying? You're going to have to get some security at the door. Oh, yeah. You know, we got to keep the sexiness going, right? That's what I promised my viewers, right there. Right? No, that's really super, super awesome. And the whole goal that I have for my channel and the purpose of my channel really is to bring value to our community, right? But, you know, not with its closed doors. And sometimes our community could be a little closed-minded as well. And that's why I invite, and I say it on my description and in my videos, that I'm here also for the bisexual guys, you know? And because these are the guys that sort of, to me, you know, sometimes they get sort of the bum rap, I think, because sometimes I've heard from a lot of people, you know, oh, they don't know what they want, they can't make up their mind. Or the opposite was like, oh, they want to have everything, you know? And I'm like, you know, let's stop hating on those guys, okay? Because, you know, I would probably one of those guys, I mean, I knew, right, from very young that I had an attraction to men. I think at 12, my kind of consciousness woke up and I saw a man's eyes and I said, oh my God, his eyes are so beautiful. And I caught myself thinking that way, you know, he had beautiful brown eyes and God knows everything else was adorable, right? But, and I was in a bar with my stepfather, so I was like, oh wow. You know, and they were playing with this huge dildo, believe it or not. And they were like laughing. I could tell the guy was very bisexual, right? So it was like, wow. But I didn't want to come out, you know, I didn't want to tell anybody. And I had girlfriends in high school and they all wanted to have my babies. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I didn't come out till I was 27, you know, with my dad in Connecticut. And, you know, I'm sharing that story a little bit because it is gay pride, you know, it's about coming out. It's about how did it happen, you know, and the struggles that we go through, right? But let me tell you, I've been with a lot of guys who have wives and girlfriends and thank God for them because, you know, I don't think anybody needs to declare themselves necessarily, and unless you absolutely know, you know, go out there, have fun, enjoy your women. And, you know, there's certainly a lot of great gay dads. And at one point they were married, right? They were married. So we're going to keep bashing them? No. And now a lot of them, you know, are living with guys that might be with a woman for 15, 20 years, and then they're with a guy for 10. Those are the quote unquote bisexuals. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think, you know, like who judge what how they think of themselves and define themselves. I think if we could remove all social conditioning and all the acculturation, pressure from society and family and religion, that stuff, that it would probably be some kind of a curve, like Kinsey said, where most of us would be somewhere in the middle. We depend on whether we fell in love with them or felt attraction to them. And so groups only thing will be exclusively one or the other. But again, the majority was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I know that, you know, what you have to share is so insightful. The sound was getting a little funny there, you know? So I don't know if we can do anything about it, but I just wanted to let you know. So if I ask you to repeat something, it might happen, okay? I got the gist of what you were just saying now, but you know, with the bell curve and Kinsey and who are we to judge, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like if we could remove all the judgment and the conditioning of society and religion and all the things that we were told that we should be and the ways that we should define ourselves and stuff ourselves into little boxes, that if you could take away all that stuff, it would be some kind of a bell curve where the majority of us would be in the middle, where it didn't matter so much, you know, who the person was, that it depending on the person, didn't matter so much whether they were in a male or a female body. It was more about the attraction, the connection with them. And then towards the extremes, there would be some of us who would be completely 100% exclusively one or the other.
Yeah, and you know, I think this conversation is important because there's certainly a huge push out there, right? And like you were saying in the beginning, you know, the religions have a lot to do with it, right? Because they're out there blasting all of their stuff, and you know, a lot of it sort of works against, you know, our nature in some ways. You know, I would volunteer, right? That from a personal perspective, the idea of, and I'm referring to monogamy, let's say, because they're pushing it like it's the one and only answer, right? When you go out, when you're in your 18 or 17 or 16 or 20, you go out, you're like, oh, that's, you know, what I want, right? You know, maybe that's what everybody's supposed to have or the way it's supposed to be. And I think you mentioned something that, you know, you had some kind of historical context around that. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I mean, in the whole monogamy versus not issue and the whole morality issue, it's a really big conversation. We dive in deeply in but like, for example, am I going to guide myself by, in terms of realizing or deciding for myself what's right and what's wrong on texts that were written 2,000 years ago, that were translated and retranslated and mistranslated? Stuff was put in, stuff was taken out, and that they were written, you know, they were taken outside of the cultural and historical context and written at a time where women were not even human, where women were property. So am I going to base my moral choices on that? I'm not. I'm sorry, but I'm not. So if we don't base ourselves on old texts, how do we know? How do we navigate what's right, what's wrong? And I think it's a very personal thing, and in some ways it's more difficult to navigate, because it's a lot easier to say, whoa, that book says, or that minister, or that says, and you don't. That's kind of easier to do. Navigate what's wrong, take more going within and really looking at things and asking difficult questions. Difficult questions. So it's like, how do I know? It's like, for me, it's kind of like looking in the rear mirror, like when I do something, with, you know, that action, behavior, that relationship, that act, what effect did it have? Lead to making me better, being a more whole human? Did that behavior, that act, that related, lead to deepening of connection, or did it cause separation, pain, harm? I live by very few rules. One of them is do no harm. So, as to the best of my capacity, that's one of the ways that I navigate that. Is that behavior, that act, going to lead to harm or not?
Exactly. And I think you said something, I remember you speaking to something about marriage, the institution itself, like how it was formed. Can you tell us about that? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah. That's in the book Coming Out Spiritually. One of the things I did there was talk about how, or you know, name different archetypes, roles that people we today call LGBT have played throughout history, like keepers of beauty, scouts of consciousness, mediators, you know, and others. And so one of them is the scout of consciousness. So in a tribe, the role of the scout is he or she who goes ahead of the tribe to see what's on the other side of the river, through the forest, on the other side of the mountain. So it's a really valuable role, because the scout takes themselves out of the safety of the group, the safety of the village, and place themselves at risk. And so in terms of consciousness, it's a role that LGBT people have always played. We're kind of pushing society to look at the ways that it questions things and thinks of things. And so it's a great service, and it's also one of the reasons we're always in trouble. Like, we're a lightning rod for trouble, because we're always pushing the limits of society. So, for example, marriage, which is what you were talking about, is an example of that. Yeah. Like, you know, I read about this stuff, and I'm inform myself about this kind of stuff, and it wasn't until, like, what, 15, 20 years ago, when the whole possibility of same-sex marriage came up, that I discovered, that I read somewhere, that sex for romantic reasons wasn't even around till the late 1800s. Before then, marriage was all about property rights, inheritance, alliances between families, alliances between countries, between this family and that family, or that royalty and that other country. And so marrying for love is a pretty recent thing. So even by virtue of some of us in the LGBT community wanting to be included in that institution, because it was, it wasn't unanimous. There's still a lot of people who don't want any part of that institution because they think of it as patriarchal. But regardless, just by virtue of some of us wanted to be part of that, and I'm all about supporting equal rights, so I'm not questioning that part of it. We forced all of us, all society, to look at what is the institution of marriage for? What purpose does it serve? Is it just about establishing, superiority and possession of man over woman, or inheritance right? What's it about?
Right.
So it's a valuable service, and again, one of the reasons we're always in trouble.
And thank you for sharing that, because I think it's super insightful. That's why I wanted you to share it, right, with our tribe here, right? Because it certainly comes up all the time. And what bothers me is that you have these young, beautiful 22-year-olds, 27-year-olds, whatever, or anybody really, but mostly when I see the young guys affected, so like, with the I like to call it, and I've heard this reference this way, sort of like the Cinderella syndrome, everything's got to be perfect, right? Marry your Prince Charming for the rest of your life, and only leading to devastation when the reality of life actually hits them, right? 3 years later, 5 years later, I mean, granted, there's a lot of guys out there and straight marriages and even gay couples, right? 20 and 30 years together, which I think is fantastic. But the way the institutions want to play it out is with all these dogmas, and that's what I think creates a lot of turmoil and resistance, for us, and a lot of confusion and conflict, emotional conflict, right? Because it's all about emotional healing. I mean, that's what you talk about. That's what my work is all about, also, right? And that's what I try to bring forth, right? Bring it forth to the people here on this channel. And that being said, I wanted to share something with you about my channel, because in the beginning, my channel right now is called Men for Men Real Talk, right? But I started it out as Adamtalks. And it was actually, I had the idea and the intention to follow sort of in line with a TED Talks kind of approach. Isn't that funny? And my intention was so that my channel would not be anything about me, really, or not all about me, okay? That it would be all about the viewers and bringing people like yourself. And my goal is to have successful gay or bisexual men who are leading the charge. And you said something about one of your archetypes was the scout. Am I right? Is that what it was? All right.
Yes.
I love that, because in a way, that's the way I see, I've always seen myself as a leader, right? And I agree with you. And I think I think our people need to hear it over and over and over and over again, because we're starting to get bashed over our heads with the complete opposite everywhere we turn on social media, right? That's why I love this vehicle, this YouTube, right? Eliminating the middleman. So the idea that, we are not just okay, we are divine, we are blessed, we are angels, we are heaven sent. So, and I'm saying all these words, sort of quote unquote religious words. I know I'm falling into that way of speaking, but I'm saying it in a bigger picture, with a bigger vision. I'm embracing spirituality.
That's right.
Not just religion. And that leads me to another point, right? That they do not own the rights to spirituality. Yes?
Absolutely. To me, and I honor the traditions, the established traditions. I also challenge them. To me, the way that I gauge religion, whether it's doing its job, is I think of the sacred, as something that we are a part of. I don't believe in anything as an abomination, but if I did, the externalization of God, of the sacred, to me, that's one of the most tragic things that has happened in human history. Because how much further could we have placed the sacred away from us? And how far is heaven, and where the hell is heaven anyway? So then anything that we considered sacred or holy, we put it away from us. Anything of the physical, we made it something to be conquered, subjugated, controlled. And in the case of the human body, we animalized it. In the case of sexuality, we demonized it. So no wonder we have sex issues as a species. But what is sad about that, what's tragic about that, is before the patriarchal times and cultures, that separation between the physical and the spiritual wasn't there. That schism wasn't there. There's some of the Eastern paths, spiritual paths, like the Taoist and the Tantric paths. Sexuality was considered something sacred and a path to get back to sacred union. And in the indigenous traditions all over the world, they also don't have that split. To them, everything is sacred. The trees and the rocks and the bugs and the four-leggeds and the birds, everybody, including the genitals and the body, right? So, but it's so. Even if we go by the Western traditions that claim that God is everywhere, that God is omnipresent, that don't tell me that God is everywhere except for the bedroom and the genitals.
Right.
You know, either God is everywhere or it's not.
Right.
So I think as part of our job is because so many LGBT people, so many gay men and so many bi men have grown up with a sense of shame around our sexuality, that part of our job, part of our healing process is to soften, to reclaim our sexuality as something sacred, and to bring an element of the sacred to our sexuality. Whatever that means, you know, without dogma, without belief. Is like, I'm like you, I'm talking about spirituality, which is innate part of everybody who we are. Just a part of who we are. Just like some of us tried to reject our sexuality at some point in our lives, many of us tried to reject our spirituality because we confuse it with religion. And it's just an intrinsic part of being human as everything else.
Yeah. And I love the you know, where you said, you know, the part of our sexuality is sacred, because honestly, that's exactly what I preach. And I'm not one, like, I don't get up to preach, right? Because I always tell people I don't preach. But that's what I share with people, you know? And like when I engage in that process of having sex with somebody, I am there 110%. To me, it is a spiritual process. And you know, even the work I've done with guys, they have uncovered that for themselves, you know, realized I have taught that to them. And so I speak to that all the time. And you made a really important, another important point as well, an issue that we all face really, is what it leads us to. You know, we have all these boxes, all these dogmas, you know, that are placed upon us, that are thrust on us day after day after day. You know, it's conditioning, right? With all the stuff on TV, on media, in the places of worship, right? And, you know, we're sitting there going in with, you know, beautiful spiritual sense. And a lot of times we have to sit through getting bashed, you know? And it's amazing because I certainly have experienced it. I'm there with my family and they're choosing to bash, you know, gay people, gay whatever, you know? And so we have to sit there like it's okay, you know? So how are we supposed to feel? I mean, if you have that every day of your life, from where you're 2 to 3 to 5 to 7 to 9 to 12, you know, by the time you're 20, you're really believing that crap, you know? And now we're in relationships, we don't even know how to be, because you're coming from this ugly place of I'm not good enough anyway, right? And like leading us to addiction groups and too much drinking and drugs because you're running away. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And looking for sex in the wrong places, looking for validation, you know, for validating ourselves by having another sexual encounter, another sexual contest and conquest. And the thing about that is that part of us that mistakenly believes that we're not good enough because it's just bullshit, it isn't real. It's just a misunderstanding of a young mind that didn't know any better, that misheard something or misinterpreted something or was told something in reaction with, you know, probably not bad intentions, maybe sometimes with bad intentions, but regardless, it doesn't make it real. So our main job is to heal ourselves, so that we approach our relationships from a place of wholeness. Because as long as we're trying to fill something missing here by finding it outside of us, it's never going to be fulfilling and it's never going to work out. And how unfair to put that expectation on somebody else that you're going to make me happy. Like, it's only my job and only I can make myself happy. And if we're coming still, if we haven't done our work, whether it's breath work, which by the way is really, really effective and heals that stuff quickly, or therapy or coaching or whatever it is that we're drawn to do and guided to do, so that we heal our self-esteem and we'll come to a real place of self-love. I mean, beyond acceptance, like self-love. There's no way that any relationship can really work, because we're only going to attract what's inside of us. So if we're not feeling like we're good enough, we're only going to attract somebody who's going to reflect that back to us.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. I share that all the time. It's a huge part of the work that I do, as a matter of fact. You know, and what was the name of your book? I just want to make sure we get it on the...
Yeah, the book is called Coming Out Spiritually.
Coming Out Spiritually? Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that you have you've been doing this work for quite some time, right? You want to share how long you've been doing this work?
Yeah, I've been doing transformational retreats and workshops, and doing breath work for 30 years. This year is my 30th year, so.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
Long time.
And you know, I want to say for you guys that are listening right now, if you like any part of this video, of this interview, please leave a comment, okay? Tell me what parts you like, what you like to hear more about, because I certainly will get back to Christian with, you know, any thoughts or questions and things of that nature. Of course, anything that we're mentioning in the video, in this interview, we're also going to, I'm going to provide the links on the bottom, okay? So wherever you find it, if it's on a post, just look under the description. Same thing in YouTube, you have to click on show more so you can see, and the links to his book and his website will all be listed there, okay? So make sure to give the video a thumbs up. Make sure you leave a comment, because comments are everything for algorithms, right? And, you know, we're not done with Christian right yet, but I'm getting close to wrapping it up with him. So that's why I wanted to share that with you guys, to make sure, because engagement is everything. And maybe we'll do a live one day and we'll take a live Q&A. What do you think about that idea, Christian?
That'd be great. I'd be up for that.
So tell us when your event is, the upcoming event. You have one upcoming, yes?
Yeah, there's a retreat, the one you were referencing earlier, calling LGBT Heroes. There's one in July in Esalen, which is in Big Sur in California. It's an amazing setting, right on the edge of the Pacific, and you're sitting in this beautiful hot tub, and you look down over the side, and you know there's the rocks and the ocean below you, and when you look out and you see whales and otters and amazing stars at night. Just really, you see the Milky Way really clearly. I also offered here in Miami on the East Coast. We just had it recently, a couple of months ago. So I think the next one's going to be in February of 2020 here on the East Coast. And they're amazing retreats. We do this breathwork healing practice, which again, I have yet to come across anything that heals as quickly and as profoundly and in so many levels. I come out of the psychotherapy tradition. My dad was a psychiatrist. My degree's in psychology, and I was going for the PhD. But when I discovered this simple breathing practice, I jumped tracks. I never went for the PhD because it works so fast and heals at so many levels, including physically. And I know that sounds too good to be true. I know that, but I can't argue with results. It works. And I offer it all over the world. I've even been to China twice to offer this healing practice over there. So it works. It just simply works.
Well, but you know, I want to add to that, because I know that science lately actually has been coming around to the new knowledge, according to them, because it's been ancient, right? But new beliefs, a lot of scientists, because I do a lot of work around neuroplasticity, right? And brain training, right? So with neuroscientists like David Asseroff, for instance, right? And they talk a lot about how certain things, feelings, emotions, get trapped in our cells, right? Like get trapped in the liver, right? We hold this, you hold this in your chest, you're holding this, in your kidneys, that kind of thing, right? Different emotions, right? And I used to work with a nutritional healer in Brooklyn. I did spiritual healing work with that group, and I learned how to do what she does for a good 5+ years. That's what kind of started me on this journey, honestly. So, a lot of her work revolved around that stuff, You have to let go of these things, right? And so the notion that you're talking about breath work and how it gets released because it is physical, becomes physical in nature, the things that we hold on to. I just want to add to that because even though, some might want to blow it off like hokey, there's a lot of science lately that backs it up even more.
Yes, yes. And what you're talking about is how we somaticize, how we hit the trauma that we haven't really healed or dealt with, or even just suppressed emotions that we're so acculturated and trained to make wrong, right? So we've been all taught that to feel emotions as weakness and girly, as if that were a sign of weakness. It's kind of messed up, right? So then we suppress the emotions, and we don't allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling, and much less communicate it. So that what used to be spiritual teaching, that everything is energy, now we know from physics, from quantum physics, that it's true. Everything is energy, including the body and your desk and the vase behind you, and the emotions. Energy, emotion, that's what emotions are. So they're just energy. They're not good, they're not bad, they're not strong, they're not weakness. They're just energies coursing through the body. But when we don't allow ourselves to feel them, they get stuck. They get lodged in the tissues of the body. And then after years and decades and a lifetime of doing that, we walk around with layers upon layers upon layers of emotional crap. And here we are, trying to have a relationship in the present moment, and it's all getting filtered through that lifetime of accumulated emotional crap.
Right, so it pays to do the work, guys, okay? That is what Christian is saying. That is what I am saying as well. I certainly am not one to bring just, junk content, to the world. The whole idea of bringing him on board is to have people within our own community. Because for one, I love these straight guys that are out there doing all this rah, 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 and saying, looking sexy, and that we give them everything that they want, money and everything, right? But my stand is to bring people within our own community and to lift them up and to, in a way, adore and praise them, because we, like Christian was saying, are divine. We have historically been leaders, okay? And I really love that. What was the Scouts, right? Yeah, I love that. The work with the archetypes, which I do as well with clients when they really need it. I did have a client who said, I feel like I'm broken into a million pieces. And I promised him, I said, I promise you I'll bring you back together. 8 months later, it's exactly what he told me. He said, I'm like 85%, better. He was a married man 30 years, ended up having a boyfriend. He's still living with the wife. He still has the boyfriend. They go out, they enjoy their grandkids, and so he's got his life the way. And the wife thanked me. She's like, oh my God, thank you for bringing me my best friend back. See, guys, for diversity, talk about out of the box, like hello, burst it up. Let's break up those boxes and destroy those paradigms that actually are destroying us. Okay, guys? So, I just said something about paradigms. Christian, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, and that's another big question. The paradigms, the realities, if you would, that we take on and that we subscribe to, which sometimes they're not even ours. And sometimes we don't even question them or ask them, as like, where did I get that belief? Or where did I pick up that way of thinking about something? And then it's just stuff that over the years and over the decades and over the eons humanity has landed on, but that doesn't make it real, and it doesn't make it true, and it doesn't make it applicable and appropriate and congruent to who we are today. So the work, for all of us to go inside, like all the answers are inside. And so rather than go outside and depend on what somebody else came up with, it's like go within. That's what a lot of my work, and what I'm assuming yours is too, is helping people to go within and getting clear about what we want, what works for us, what doesn't work for us, what's right for us, what's not okay with us.
Yeah, I certainly do that, Christian. Absolutely. That's why I love when I heard you. I tell you, it wasn't even 4 minutes in, but I did watch the whole thing. And I contacted you right away. And I'm like, actually, I'm still watching your video, right? Remember that?
Yeah. Yes, of course.
I was like, oh my God, I got it. And I have a client right now, and I tell him all the time, I said, no, I'm not talking here. I'm talking here in the heart.
That's right.
Because I'm listening here. And I'm helping you get from your headspace into your heart and make that connection.
That's right.
So I do a lot of left brain, right brain work, right? Analytical and creative hemisphere, right? So bringing them together, because a lot of times that's what's going on. And it's not that difficult, not that impossible to teach people new patterns and new techniques and strategies that can help them overcome a lot of these blocks, including, things like breath work, right? And that leads me to yoga. I mentioned to you that I did a 200-hour yoga teacher's training. And that's a wonderful thing too. Yoga helps people, right? Because what is yoga all about? It's about breath work.
Yes.
Getting centered, and going through the flows. So all the postures help people break all those, trapped emotional things that are getting stuck in our organs, squeezes. And so anyway, it helps many systems as well. I know that that's part of, this whole realm that we're talking about, right, Christian?
Yes, and not only that, I mean, the benefits of yoga, meditation, and now breathwork is the next one that's going to be studied scientifically. I mean, but they're established and they're proven. And not only the ones that and multi-level, but the one that also is so pertinent for our times is stress reduction. Like we live in such a stressful world, where everything is kind of, and stressful times, like really challenging times. We're kind of like in between the end of something and the beginning of something that isn't here yet. So that causes a lot of stress. Institutions, systems that are no longer sustainable are imploding in front of our very eyes. And then the new ones aren't here yet. Right. And everything is being redefined and questioned. So a lot of stress in life to begin with, and a lot of stress in the way that we have signed up to do our lives. We're like rushing around from meeting to meeting and place to place and errand to errand and deadline to deadline and exhausting ourselves in the process. So even if we take just a few minutes each day, whether it's going to a yoga class or sitting outside in nature by the bay, or sitting by a lake, or sitting with your back against a tree, just slowing down your breath, or it changes everything. Everything.
Yeah, slow down the breath. What does it do? It gives you time to become present.
Yeah.
Right? So that stop the insanity and actually begin being, right? Like Deepak Chopra says, we are running around being human doings. We gotta need to practice becoming human beings, right?
Right.
So that's very big. We gotta stop the madness, right? I want to share something because this is sort of like a big reveal moment. I decided to do it with you because to me, you're that special, see? And this is something I've kept to myself, but remember I shared earlier. And guys, if you're liking this content, really do me a favor, leave a comment, okay? Because it's big for me, it's big for Christian. I want to bring him back. Anything you like about this. And if you guys have ever done any retreats, tell me in comments. I want to know, who you guys are, okay? So when I started this channel, Christian, it started as Adamtalks, right? And then I think it was after I had a great success with one video that I decided to change it. But it was like a couple of months later. I'm almost at 100 videos, now. A few of my videos have 150,000, views and stuff like that, right? So the one Poppers video was a very polarizing video. I did it on purpose. It's a strategy, right? Because they say, create a polarizing statement so you can know who your haters are and who your devoted followers are. Boy, was that the case. It's like 56% love, and the opposite is almost just as many hate it, right? But it does shock me because there's a lot of haters out there, and it went to like generic people. It didn't go to just my public, right? My followers. So people were like, why am I getting this on my channel, on my feed, you know, that kind of thing. So, and of course, poppers is a little controversial, but I did it on purpose because I'm like, you know, I'm tired of the government getting in our business. Stay out of the bedrooms, you know. Let us decide who we want to love, who we want to have sex with. Stop trying to tell me that I can or cannot have it. Does that make sense, Christian?
Sure.
That's not the point, but I just wanted to stop and say that. The bigger point is that it was Adamtalks because I never really wanted the channel to be all about me. But then something that we all kind of do, right? And you could tell me yes or no. But certainly coming as being a gay or bisexual man especially, right? You know, there's a lot of social media apps, hookup apps, dating apps, and, you know, many of us use different names. Yes or no?
What do you mean, use different apps or use different
different names. When you join an app, right, you have an alias.
Oh, like an alias. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Right, like Big Daddy blah, 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 right? Like, you know, Sugar Likes His Hot or whatever, you know, you make up a name, right? So, you know, Adam happens to have been, to me, I used it because it represents, to me, like the first man, you know? And so I like that idea, right? So I used to use the name Adam in different places, you know, social media places, right? Hookup sites or whatever, right? So, yeah, and then I said, you know, let me just go with that for the men's group. And how it came about is that I couldn't sleep one night, and I literally got up and I had all these things: Adamtalks, men talk, sex talk, blah, blah, blah. And literally I wrote for like 3 hours, wrote like 5 pages. I just couldn't sleep. It was one of those inspired moments, right? And then I changed it to Men for Men Real Talk. And one of the reasons was because, you know, Adam Levine?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I couldn't get anywhere. I couldn't get anything seen on my channel. You know, my views weren't going up and stuff like that. Every time you typed in Adam anything, anybody tried to find me, they couldn't, because Adam Levine was all over Google, you know? Like the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, everything was Adam Levine. I was like, oh my God, I'm never gonna get found. You follow what I'm saying?
So not even Adam, as in Adam and Eve, get any coverage.
No. So, you know, that's just a, you know, maybe minor to some people, but for me it was a big deal. What do I call the channel, right? You know, and I'm like divulging, and I'm sharing that, so it's like an intimacy that I'm sharing with the group here now, my followers, because, you know, it is an alias that I have always used, you know, and I just brought it in, and, you know, I even have a sexy stories blog, you know, and I didn't tell you about that, right, Christian?
No, I didn't know about this.
You see, we're revealing all the inner truth of sexiness, guys. Embrace it. Don't hide. Don't shun it. Don't run away from it, right, Christian?
That's right. That's right. Be authentic. Be who you are.
Thank you. And that's part of what I'm doing here, right? So I'm showing up that way. I'm inviting the guys to do the same. I'm taking it on. I'm sitting here being vulnerable, right? Sharing, you know, inner truths, you know, so, you know, now the channel's called Men for Men, Real Talk. And a lot of people, they say, hey, Adam, which is fine, because I had the idea of, you know how you have Dear Abby, right? Wasn't it Dear Abby, right? So I don't know if it's really Abby, but a lot of times it's not really the name. It's Dear So-and-so, right? So I've had the idea of creating like a sex, you know, whatever. What do you call them when you write in a sex
column?
When you have like when you call in and sex advice column, exactly. You know, I've had that idea, so I said maybe we could call it Adamtalks or whatever, you know. But so that's, you know, I wanted to reveal that, use that as a big reveal here today on my channel, because it's not my actual name. Is not Adam. It's Michael, right? So that's how you know me, and that's how I'm listed on Facebook. And I didn't even put my Facebook link on my YouTube channel. I haven't done that yet. You see? So it was done on purpose, and it was done so I could sort of keep a separation of church and state, right?
Right.
Talking about. So that I know anybody who contacts me from here, it's all about this, you know? And, you know, my coaching work and everything else through other social media, with my actual, birth name. So that is, it's about clarity. Does that make sense, Christian?
Yeah.
Creating different markets, different segments, now merging it a little bit and coming out, right? Which is another.
Well, that's what it sounds you're doing here today with us. You're integrating both sides of you.
Yeah. And that's what it's about. I mean, we are talking about healing, right? We are talking about not being ashamed, right? Embracing all of who we are, right?
That's it. All aspects of this.
And as
all the times that we have rejected or stuck in the back of a closet somewhere, no matter what kind of closet.
And why? What are we doing? You and I are both focused on a bigger vision because ultimately, really, we both know none of it is wrong. None of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like that goes back to the same question. Who's going to decide what's right and what's wrong?
Yeah.
And to me, that's a journey that we each take on with incredible responsibility. Yeah. And we don't take it lightly.
And it's all about self-love.
Yeah. Right? Ultimately, yes.
And if it's got to start here, and as long as we can really dig into that place, find that place, we have balance, we can find all those loving energies that we want, even, however it is, whether it's for the day, for the year, for your lifetime.
Yeah, and the more profoundly we love ourselves, the less harm that we cause in the world.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up with you because I went over my time. But Christian, you've been so wonderful. So guys, please, leave a comment. And again, Christian, would you like to tell us what your website is? You have a website.
Yeah, yes. Thank you. It's soulfulpower.com. SOULFUL power.com.
And your book again for the last time for our viewers?
The book again is coming out spiritually, and I'm about to release another one.
Beautiful. I look forward to chatting with you again, Mr. Christian de la Huerta.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Michael.
Thank you, my friend. Big hugs and kisses, all right? We'll talk soon, all right? Ciao.
Ciao.